Must understand this fundamental truth. Fear at work. It uses your imagination to create monsters where none exist. Consider the story of a man named Jack. Jack was paralyzed by fear of a tangible enemy, but fear of rejection. His mind played tricks on him every day, whispering that he was not enough, that the world would turn its back on him. Yet when Jack finally took a chance, he found that the fear, it is a mental construct, an exaggerated warning system designed to protect you, but often betraying you. Your brain, hardwired to keep you alive, scans for threats, sometimes so eagerly that it creates them out of thin air. It confuses imagined dangers with real ones. It mistakes hesitation for safety, silence for security. Psychologists call this phenomenon a false positive, when the mind signals danger where there is none. Evolutionarily, this bias toward caution served to protect early humans from predators. Yet in today's world, the same mechanism traps you in a prison of hesitation, doubt, and self-sabotage. To break free, you must question the reality of your fear. Based on fact or fiction? Is it a true threat or an echo from a past wound? A story my mind tells to keep me small. Remember the great inventor Thomas Edison, who faced over 1,000 failed attempts before illuminating the world. Did Edison fear as reality? The moment you see fear strikes, meet it with calm reasoning. Let your mind become a fortress of truth, not a playground for imaginary monsters. Visualize fear. Observe it. Test it. And when you find it has no real cause, dismiss it. Do not misunderstand fears. You are the master of your mind, not a prisoner to its false alarms. So today, the question is simple but profound. When fear for what it is, not real. Fear is the opposite of faith. These two forces cannot coexist in the same heart at the same time. Where faith takes root, fear by shifting the focus from what can go wrong to what must be done. It teaches the mind to trust in purpose rather than perfection. This shift is not easy. It requires practice, discipline, and a refusal to give fear. You reinforce a neurological pathway, one that strengthens courage and weakens doubt. Psychologists explain this as the brain's plasticity, its ability to rewire itself through repeated behavior. When you embrace faith, your brain releases chemicals associated with confidence and optimism. When you succumb to fear and into the realm of possibility, it is why countless leaders, from Martin Luther King Jr. to Mother Teresa, have credited their faith as the wellspring of their courage and success. Their faith was not blind. It was informed by experience, fortified by setbacks, and renewed by unwavering commitment. Ask yourself, what would you attempt if you knew you could not fail? That question alone reveals the prison fear and faith. You are the conductor. Choose to amplify the music of faith. Let it drown out the noise of fear. Loses its power. It becomes a shadow, a whisper, a passing cloud on the horizon of your destiny. So today, let faith be your compass. Let it guide your steps through uncertainty and trials. Because where faith is present, fear, and that is the birth of true freedom. The mind is your battlefield, the arena where every victory or defeat is first decided long before the world sees the outcome. It is within this unseen war that fear itself, and in doing so, to master your life. Every struggle you face, every mountain you seek to climb, begins in the mind. Before a boxer lands a single punch, the battle is fought in his mind, where doubts, strategies, and courage collide. Before the great leaders who changed history acted boldly, they wrestled with uncertainty and fear define her. The mind was where her greatest victories were won, not by sight or sound, but by the strength of will. This internal victory paved the way for her to inspire millions. Psychologically, the mind operates through a feedback loop of beliefs and emotions. When fearful mind can be reshaped into one of power and resolve. The battlefield analogy is fitting, because like any war, strategy, you must learn to identify the enemy's tactics, the doubts that whisper lies, the what-ifs that breed paralysis, the comparisons that steal joy and focus. These are the saboteurs within your own mind, armed with fear to breach your defenses. Every day, every moment, this choice is yours. The greatest generals are not those who never face fear, will fall. you will rise unstoppable, unshakable, and free. Fear is a habit. Like any habit, it is formed over time through repeated thought patterns, conditioned responses, and avoidance. It settles deep into the grooves of your mind, becoming second nature, automatic, unconscious, and difficult to break. But habits, no matter how entrenched, can be changed. And the key to breaking the habit of fear and rewires your mind for courage. Consider the way fear is the safest choice. This is why fear is learned. It can be unlearned through repetition of a different behavior. Courageous action. Take the example of Rosa Parks, who refused to give up her seat on a bus, igniting a movement that changed history. Her action was not born from absence of fear instilled by oppression. One small act of defiance broke the cycle, inspiring millions to break their own habits of fear. Through action, you create new neural pathways that associate courage with reward and success, instead of danger and avoidance. This process of neuroplasticity is how habits shift. Every time you choose action over fear's automatic hold. But action must be deliberate and persistent. It need not be grandiose. It can begin with small steps. The first phone call to that opportunity you dread. The simple yes to a challenge you want to avoid. The decision to speak your truth in a room where you usually stay silent. These are the building blocks of breaking fear. Feeds on. Look at the story of J.K. Rowling, who faced rejection after rejection before publishing the Harry Potter series. Every time she persisted, she acted in spite of fear and ultimately changed her life, and the lives of millions forever. Action changes your internal dialogue too. It replaces I cannot with I will try. It transforms anxiety into excitement, hesitation into momentum. Fear loses its power when it is met with movement. And with each courageous act, you prove to yourself that fear is a thief disguised as caution. It promises safety, but delivers stagnation. Action is the antidote. The more you act, the more you reclaim your power. The habit of fear. Take that step, then another. Let your actions be louder than your doubts. The habit of fear. What if I told you that fear, that invisible chain, binding your mind, the silent voice that whispers, you cannot. But here is the promise. By the end of this message, your mindset will never be the same, because fear will no longer control you. Are you ready to take the first step? Fear is a phantom, a mirage that haunts the mind, but holds no true substance. It masquerades as reality, yet beneath its surface lies nothing but illusion. To conquer fear more deeply than you might realize, it is not merely the physical space you inhabit, but the people you surround yourself with, the voices you hear, and the beliefs that saturate your daily life. Fear is contagious, and so is courage. When your environment breeds doubt, insecurity, and negativity, fear struggles to survive. This truth has been understood by the most successful minds in history, and it remains a law of human psychology that you cannot afford to ignore. Think about the company you keep. Napoleon Hill taught that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If those 5 people are filled with worry, cynicism, and hesitation, then their fears, their doubts echo in your mind until your own voice of courage is drowned out. Fear becomes a shared language, a habit learned and reinforced through a... It is no coincidence that people stuck in toxic environments find themselves trapped in fear. Psychologically, the environment influences our neural pathways and emotional responses more than we realize. The brain is wired to mimic and absorb the attitudes and beliefs it encounters regularly. This process, called social contagion, explains how fear is normalized. Your brain responds by heightening anxiety and stress, reinforcing the habit of fear. Conversely, an environment filled with encouragement and examples of resilience helps build mental strength and diminish fear. It is not enough to will yourself to be fear and oppression. Yet he built a movement fueled by hope and faith. He surrounded himself with those who shared a vision for justice, and that environment became the soil in which courage blossomed. Overpowering fear is fought. Choose wisely the actors, the scenery, and the script. If your environment echoes fear, loses its power. This is not mere advice. It is a strategy rooted in the science of human behavior and the wisdom of those who have walked the path before you. Your environment shapes your fear's greatest weapon. It is the shadow it casts over your dreams, the phantom it uses to paralyze your will. But what if failure is not the enemy? You have been taught to fear itself, and step into a life of relentless courage and unstoppable progress. Fear uses failure as a weapon by convincing you that one misstep defines your worth, that falling means you are broken beyond repair. This lie is a prison constructed by the mind, a cage that traps countless souls before they ever take flight. But failure is not the end. It is a necessary step on the path to success. Every great achievement, every remarkable story in history is punctuated with failure. What separates the victorious from the defeated is not the absence of failure, but the ability to see it differently. Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb, famously failed thousands of times before he succeeded. Yet Edison did not see these attempts as failures. He said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This reframe transformed his mindset. Failure became feedback, a guidepost on the road to invention. He did not allow fear's grip. Consider the story of Oprah Winfrey. Early in her career, she faced rejection and setbacks, including being told she was unfit for television. Yet she chose to see those moments not as verdicts, but as lessons. Each failure became fuel for her rise. Her refusal to let failure define her shattered fear loses its sharpest edge. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What will I learn?" This mindset shift is a revolution. It turns fear tries to paralyze you with thoughts of failure. Remember, failure is not your enemy. It is your greatest teacher. Your most powerful weapon against fear loses its power. You become unstoppable. Definite purpose is the foundation upon which all success is built. It is the clear, unwavering reason that drives you forward when every obstacle screams for you to quit. Without a definite purpose, life becomes a wandering journey, susceptible to distraction, doubt, and fears that threaten to fragment your attention. A definite purpose acts like a laser beam, cutting through the noise and aligning every thought and action toward one singular goal. This alignment energizes your mind, ignites your spirit, and silences the inner voice of fear creeps in as a substitute for confidence. But when your purpose is clear and compelling, your brain releases dopamine and other neurochemicals that sustain focus and resilience. This biological reward reinforces action and weakens fear into fear asks, "Why risk? Why suffer? Why continue?" The purpose whispers back, "Because this is who I am, because this is what I was born to do." When you define your purpose, you create a personal mission statement, your North Star. It becomes a daily reminder that your actions matter and that your life has meaning beyond fleeting moments. It gives you the courage to face rejection, to learn from failure, and to rise after every fall. Without definite purpose, fear shrinks in the shadow of determination and clarity. Your purpose is the lens through which fear, past doubt, past every excuse. Because the power of definite purpose is the power to live fear. Emotions shape your thoughts, influence your decisions, and ultimately determine the trajectory of your life. Fear often arises not from reality itself, but from uncontrolled emotional responses. Anxiety, doubt, anger, that become habitual, like shadows that cloud your mind. To conquer fear's grip, making it feel overwhelming and insurmountable. But mastery over emotional habits rewires this process. Through conscious practice, you train your brain to respond to stress with calmness and clarity rather than panic. Consider the example of Eleanor Roosevelt, a woman who faced relentless criticism and hardship, yet became one of the most influential advocates for human rights. Her secret was emotional mastery. She learned to recognize the emotional triggers that threatened to destabilize her, and instead cultivated habits of resilience and composure. When faced with public ridicule or personal loss, she chose reflection over reaction, strength over surrender. Her emotional habits became the foundation of her courage. Psychologists today speak of emotional intelligence as a crucial skill for success and happiness. This intelligence is not innate, but developed. It involves awareness, recognizing your emotions without judgment, and regulation, choosing how to express or contain them. Emotional habits, once formed, become automatic responses. If your habit is to respond to fear's power grows unchecked. But if your habit is to pause, breathe, and refocus, then you reclaim your power and reduce fear. A person who habitually responds to stress with anger or frustration may isolate themselves, deepening feelings of vulnerability. Conversely, someone who nurtures habits of gratitude, patience, and optimism builds a network of support and positivity that buffers fear, dictating your story. You become the author who chooses courage, peace, and clarity. Think of your emotional habits as the soil in which your thoughts and actions grow. Poor soil breeds weeds of fear is not a fixed state. It is a feeling that rises and falls like waves. Your emotional habits determine whether you are tossed about like driftwood or anchored firmly like a ship in the storm. The journey to mastery is not easy, but it is essential. It is the pathway to freedom from fear and those that foster courage. Choose to cultivate habits that empower you. This mastery is not just a skill. It is a declaration that you will no longer be a slave to fear, loses its dominion. Visualization is the bridge that connects your mind's dreams to your life's reality. To visualize victory, not defeat, is to send a powerful message to your subconscious, a message that programs your thoughts, emotions, and actions toward success rather than surrender. Napoleon Hill taught us that the mind cannot distinguish clearly between what is vividly imagined and what is real. This is why visualization is one of the most potent tools to wipe out fear of failure and build an unshakable belief in victory. Psychologically, visualization taps into the brain's mirror neurons, cells that fire not only when you perform an action, but also when you imagine it. This means that by visualizing yourself succeeding, you activate the same neural pathways as when you actually succeed. Your brain begins to prepare your body and mind for that outcome, strengthening skills, reducing anxiety, and increasing motivation. Fear thrives in uncertainty and negative expectation. When you visualize defeat, you feed fear to act despite uncertainty and to seize opportunities with unwavering confidence. Visualization is not daydreaming or wishful thinking. It is a disciplined practice, a mental workout that must be repeated consistently. Spend moments each day imagining yourself overcoming fear begins to dissolve. Your mind knows the difference between a future filled with promise and one filled with despair. Your body responds accordingly. You move forward with courage, resilience, and clarity. Remember, your mind is the architect of your destiny. Build the blueprint with images of success, because what you see with your mind's eye today will become your reality tomorrow. When fear, it is the understanding that fears that seek to imprison your potential. Life will always present challenges designed to test your courage. Fear will visit like an uninvited guest, sometimes lingering longer than you desire. Yet those who commit to this lifelong battle do not wait for fear, but the triumph over it. This mindset transforms fear was not fleeting. It was relentless and lifelong. Even behind bars, Mandela committed himself to the fight for justice, freedom, and reconciliation. Fear did not vanish from his life, but his commitment to the cause and to the battle with fear. Instead of reacting with panic or avoidance, your mind learns resilience through repeated exposure and determined action. The neural pathways associated with courage are strengthened, while those tied to anxiety and avoidance. This process, known as neuroplasticity, means you are not at the mercy of fear for life. You shift from seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance to a warrior of will. Your daily habits, your choices, and even your thoughts align with this identity. You become someone who rises after every fall, who sees setbacks as fuel rather than failure. This identity fuels motivation, discipline, and hope, qualities essential for winning the lifelong battle. Even the greatest figures in history struggled continuously with fear, but in his relentless commitment to face it every day. His legacy is proof that the battle is ongoing, but victory is possible through steadfast determination. This lifelong commitment requires more than courage. It demands faith in yourself and your mission. It calls for the acceptance that fear, you become unstoppable, unshakable, and unbreakable. You win not because fear. Stand firm, fight relentlessly, and win not just once, but forever.